There are two kinds of people in this world: those who live in fear of the HOA and those who've escaped its clutches, swearing never to look back. I thought I was in the latter group. I was dead wrong. The morning I caught Linda Harper measuring my rooster's droppings with a sparkly purple tape measure, I knew the system was broken. She didn't even flinch when I asked what in the world she was doing. She just jotted something on her clipboard and said, "Per HOA regulations, poultry waste must stay within a 4-foot scatter zone." That's when I realized we weren't just being visited, we're under siege. It all began 3 weeks after my wife, Sarah, and I moved to our 12-acre ranch just outside Pine Hollow, a small town with an HOA so notorious it could make a grown man cry. We ditched our cramped Silicon Valley apartment where neighbors snitched on us for grilling past 8 p.m. for wide-open land, free from city limits and HOA rules. We double-checked. Our property was county land, not under their jurisdiction. We had goats, chickens, and a plastic flamingo wearing sunglasses in the garden just because we could. It was paradise. Then the first patrol arrived on a Saturday morning, like a ghost in a gleaming SUV, cleaner than my soul, creeping down our dirt road. Magnetic signs on the vehicle read, "Pine Hollow HOA, Harmony, Order, Community." Out stepped Linda, her hair pulled so tight it looked like it was suing her scalp. She snapped photos of our mailbox, our barn, and my "Free the Hens" sign before striding off like she'd just sentenced us to death. No hello, no explanation, just a drive-by judgment. I figured it was a mistake. Maybe her GPS was drunk, or she was new and didn't know our road was outside her domain. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But the next weekend, she was back. Then the one after that. Soon, it was twice a week. Linda would roll up, clipboard in hand, documenting violations that existed only in her perfectly manicured mind. Uneven lawn slopes, an unapproved hammock, hostile wind chimes. I tried talking to her, offered coffee. She declined, saying caffeine was against HOA rules when consumed near livestock. I pointed out we weren't in her HOA. She smiled like I'd just sneezed in her salad. "That's cute," she said. "You're still under the grandfather clause, page 317, paragraph 5C. Look it up." We did. There was no page 317, no paragraph 5C. At that point, I started fighting fire with fire. I bought a drone, named it Liberty Hawk, and recorded her every visit. I caught her once leveling our fence post, probably checking if it was leaning with malicious intent. Sarah got creative, planting ceramic gnomes in suggestive poses and a doormat that said "Scram." It was a game until it wasn't. The letters started arriving. The first was a polite note slipped into our gate. "Please conform to neighborhood standards regarding shed color, neutral tones preferred." I laughed. Our shed was bright blue, older than the HOA itself. The second letter was sterner. "Failure to comply will result in property reassessment." I called the county, who confirmed we were outside HOA territory. I faxed them the proof. They faxed back a hand-drawn map with our ranch scribbled in, courtesy of what looked like a green crayon. I thought that was their last desperate move. Then one morning, Sarah woke me, pale as a ghost. "Mike," they put up a sign. Sure enough, at the end of our gravel drive, nailed to our fence post, was a wooden sign. "Welcome to Pine Hollow HOA. Boundary begins here." It was painted in a smug serif font, adorned with tiny plastic daisies, like a grenade dressed up for a tea party. Now it was war. I built a toll booth from scrap wood next to their sign, charging $15 to cross. Linda didn't pay. She parked half a mile away and hiked in like she was invading a fortress. Sarah greeted her at the door in a bathrobe and a pirate hat, holding a chicken. "Talk to our manager," she said, pointing at a goat. The threats kept coming. Letters about annexation reviews and zoning adjustments aligned with HOA expansion. This wasn't about lawn care or mailbox height. They were trying to swallow our land, like a cult with lawnmowers and a boardroom. I stormed the county office, pulling every map, deed, and zoning record I could find. Our land was clearly outside HOA reach, legally untouchable. So why were they so relentless? That night, sipping Sarah's questionable homemade cider on the porch, I spotted Linda's SUV parked just beyond our property line, lights off, just watching. Sarah handed me a blanket. "They want something," she said. "Yeah," I replied, "and it's not our grass clippings." As if on cue, a goat bleated nervously, and a low rumble echoed in the distance, not thunder, but something deeper, underground. It made my boots feel too light. We didn't know it then, but our little HOA problem was the opening salvo in a bigger fight, one over maps, minerals, and secrets buried under our soil. The rumbling didn't stop. That low, gut-shaking hum returned every night, like something was stirring beneath the earth. I told myself it was just water shifting after heavy rains, or maybe raccoons with heavy machinery. But by the fourth night, when the goats refused to graze in the eastern field and Sarah's solar lights flickered despite fresh batteries, I knew this wasn't natural. Something was upsmithing. Linda and her clipboard army weren't telling us. By midweek, I had 3 notebooks filled with HOA violations, drone footage, and photos of Linda lingering near our septic tank, measuring shadows like she was casting a spell. Sarah said she looked like she was summoning the spirit of suburban tyranny. I was done joking. I needed answers. I drove to the county recorder's office, a dusty building that smelled like old books and regret. Behind a desk buried in folders sat Agnes, a clerk with glasses thicker than her patience. When I asked for old zoning maps of our area, she sighed like I'd asked her to rewrite the Bible. Most of it's digital now, she said, pulling up a database on a monitor older than my truck. But the old surveys? Back room. Bring a flashlight. The back room was a crypt of forgotten files. I sifted through drawers and boxes labeled miscellaneous, do not trust, until I found a 1991 map, predating the Pine Hollow HOA. It clearly marked our land as county property, outside any residential zones. I snapped a photo. Then I found something else, a 2018 amendment signed by 1R. Harper, proposing an HOA boundary expansion by 700 feet in all directions. It would still miss our ranch by 40 feet, but attached was a pending addendum targeting our property for annexation. It was stamped denied in red ink. I took everything. Agnes didn't care. Bring it back or don't. Nobody asks for this stuff. I drove home, jaw tight enough to crack stone. Sarah was in the garden, yelling at a scarecrow for not doing its job. I showed her the map, the denied proposal, and the signature R. Harper. Linda's brother, Sarah said. He was a developer, got busted for some land scam years ago, then vanished. I nodded. What if this isn't about zoning? That night, fixing a gutter after a storm, Sarah spotted something glinting in the mud near the eastern field. It was a rusted steel cap, half buried, not part of any farm system. I dug around it, uncovering heavy-duty piping that led deeper underground, too robust for water or sewage. Sarah wanted to follow it. I wanted to call someone with a degree in common sense. But it was late, and my curiosity won. We traced the pipe into the woods bordering our land. It vanished under a rock formation, but we marked the spot with a garden gnome holding a toy slingshot. The next morning, I called Sarah's cousin, Dan, a retired surveyor with a love for whiskey and wild theories. He arrived in cargo pants, grinning like he'd won the lottery. This, he said, tapping the pipe, is for natural gas containment. I blinked. Like utility gas? No, he said, sniffing the pipe like a bloodhound. The kind companies pay billions for. If it's active, you're sitting on an untapped reserve. Suddenly, it clicked. The annexation attempts, the patrols, the obsessive photos. It wasn't about our tacky lawn decor. They wanted the land to sell what was beneath it. Linda's brother likely found the reserve years ago, couldn't secure permits, and tried to loop our land into the HOA's domain with fake zoning expansions. When that failed, Linda took over, using harassment and passive-aggressive signs to wear us down. That night, I couldn't sleep. Sarah couldn't either. We sat on the porch, staring at the fields as a goat chewed on a fence post. Around 1 a.m., I saw lights bobbing in the distance, not headlights, but flashlights. 3 figures moved near the eastern field, quiet but purposeful. Binoculars revealed HOA vests, but they weren't measuring anything, they were digging. We called the sheriff, who promised to send someone by Tuesday. It was Friday. I drove out in my truck, high beams blazing, horns screaming. The workers scattered, one dropping a clipboard. I grabbed it. It had drilling specs, coordinates, and yield projections. They weren't just poking around. They knew what was under our land. Sarah stared at the papers like she'd cracked a cold case. We need to go public, she said. I agreed. Funny signs wouldn't cut it anymore. We set up a wildlife camera in a shed near the dig site, wired an old baby monitor, and rigged a doorbell cam for live feeds. 2 nights later, we caught them again. Clear footage of HOA maintenance, workers operating a small drill rig under cover of darkness. Sarah posted it to her old blog, still popular from her chicken coop DIY days. The headline read, HOA invades county ranch for secret gas. The local paper picked it up 2 days later. The video went viral. Linda stopped showing up. But she wasn't gone. A week later, we got a letter with a gold embossed seal, like it was from a medieval duke. Inside, one line, "You'll regret not selling when you had the chance." This wasn't just about suburban control freaks anymore. It was bigger and deeper. We went into full battle mode. Sarah printed flyers with QR codes linking to our footage. I built a scarecrow modeled after Linda, complete with a clipboard and a sneer, which the goats loved to ram. We weren't just defending our land. We were exposing a conspiracy. To throw them off, we staged a fake evacuation. A neon for sale by owner sign went up at the driveway. Sarah wrote a mock listing, 12-acre fixer-upper, haunted by goats and HOA ghosts. Open to cash, crypto, or chaos. We hid the truck, let the chickens run wild, and avoided daylight for 3 days. At night, we watched from the barn loft with binoculars. On the second night, they took the bait. 3 figures, 2 men, and a woman crept onto our land after midnight, carrying surveying gear. They went straight to the dig site, driving stakes into the ground every 15 feet, like they were claiming it for a strip mall. We recorded everything, including their license plate. When a motion sensor light flicked on, it caught the woman's face, Linda Harper. She didn't blink, just walked off like she owned the dirt. We downloaded the footage and drove to town with 3 thumb drives. One for the county commissioner, one for the paper, and one for Nate, a YouTuber who loved weird legal battles and once did a 30-minute video on a guy sued for flying a pirate flag. By week's end, the footage had 100,000 views. Comments flooded in. Some thought we were nuts. Others offered to camp out and guard our ranch. One guy asked if we'd rent the goats. The county zoning board noticed. They called a hearing that Friday. We showed up with the 1991 map, the denied annexation forms, and a binder of HOA harassment evidence. The board wasn't thrilled. Admitting someone had tried to sneak a gas deal through county land was embarrassing. But when we played the night vision footage of Linda and her crew staking our pasture, they perked up. One worker's line sealed it. "Once this is fenced," she says, "we drill by Friday." It was over for Linda. The board launched an investigation into the HOA's actions. A mineral rights expert confirmed the gas reserve was real and belonged to us, not the HOA. The sheriff's office, suddenly eager, opened a case for trespassing, attempted mineral theft, and zoning fraud. Word spread in Pine Hollow. The HOA board imploded, half resigned. The rest claimed they knew nothing about Linda's scheme, which was rich since she'd practically written their rulebook. Linda went quiet, last seen leaving a board meeting in a scarf and shades, flanked by lawyers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. You'd think we'd feel triumphant, but we were just exhausted, sick of the lies, the paperwork, the fight. So we flipped the script. Taylor Ranch, not in the HOA, became our brand. Sarah had the idea to slap it on t-shirts, mugs, and even chicken feed bags. People ate it up. Tourists started visiting on weekends to see the infamous field. We put up a sign, "Here lies the pipe Linda tried to steal." We hosted BBQs with goat petting zones and a freedom trail, marking every spot the HOA had trespassed. What started as an invasion became a business. A few weeks later, Sarah got a letter from the County Planning Commission asking her to join. Someone thought her experience with land grabs and zoning scams would keep them honest. She accepted, saying it was time an outsider got a seat at the table. I went back to fixing fences and herding goats, occasionally taking calls from bloggers wanting to talk HOA tyranny. Every now and then, a tinted SUV rolls by, GPS probably pointing to land that isn't theirs. They don't linger. Right under the HOA's old sign, still crooked from when Sarah clipped it with the Maori's hours, carved from reclaimed cedar, "Welcome to Taylor Ranch." Population, 2 humans, 10 chickens. For goats, 0 HOA. Below it, just for kicks, "Keep driving, Linda. We're still watching."